I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you. I'm gonna write words so sweet, they're gonna knock me off my feet. A lot of kisses on the...
Can you understand why a man threw an egg at you?
Hang on, just give your bloody brain a chance. That is the reality. That is the reality. You don't want to face the facts, do you?
Lord
I get that from you, Rhodri.
As he walked through them, a local man chucked an egg at him almost at point-blank range. John Prescott immediately swung round and landed a punch straight on his jaw. The man then wrestled the Deputy Prime Minister onto his back and held him down over a small wall as police and Labour Party officials tried to release him. Eventually they freed him, but Mr Prescott's problems weren't over. Another protester then jostled him.
Please, answer some questions. Answer questions. Sorry. That's assault. That's assault. Oh, bless you. One day you'll be home.
John Prescott is a complete idiot and suffers from an intellectual disability. He's incapable of putting together a database like the one I put together, but he is capable of fraud and theft in public office. I do keep all original documents and paperwork. However, with this video, I demonstrate the blatant theft of my business plan and the complacency and corruption in North Wales Police in covering up the fraud in public office by John Prescott. He worked for the Environment, Transport and the Regions, but he also had an office with the Deputy Prime Minister, hence 2 Jags. Prescott wasn't alone with his crime. His boss, Tony Blair, my MP, Betty Williams, Alistair Darling, David Blunkett and Rhodri Morgan, the Welsh Assembly Minister, are all guilty of handling a document to commit fraud. John Prescott had strong objectives and took huge risks when using my business plan to commit fraud, and this accounts to willful misconduct and fraud in public office. A very serious crime. A crime that carries a life sentence if indicted. After many months of detailed market research by a team of 4, I put forward my business idea to Betty Williams, who said she'd promote it with acting ministers. He wrote saying, "I would be glad to put your proposal to the Secretary of State for Social Security and for Employment." She then wrote again to confirm. Passed your details to the Secretary of State for Education and Employment and the Secretary of State for Social Security. Alistair Darling then wrote to confirm that he finds my business idea a worthwhile idea, and he notes the amount of savings I have noted for government, and he has passed this to the relevant officials. Who would be the relevant officials? That would be Tony Blair and John Prescott. Tony Blair and John Prescott totally abused my trust and totally forgot the ownership of the document. It turns out that both of these people should be behind bars for a long time.
Former US President George Bush and his former counterpart Tony Blair were found guilty of war crimes by the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal, which held a 4-day hearing in Malaysia. The 5-panel tribunal unanimously decided that Bush and Blair committed genocide and crimes against peace and humanity when they invaded Iraq in 2003 in blatant violation of international law. The judges ruled that war against Iraq by both the former heads of states was a flagrant abuse of law and an act of aggression which amounted to a mass murder of the Iraqi people.
Bush and Blair are found guilty under the same law that applied to the Nazis after the end of World War II. They are international criminals guilty of Nuremberg crimes against peace, and they should be prosecuted by any state in the world that gets a hold of them. And we will continue our efforts to bring Bush and Blair to justice and put them in jail.
In their verdict, the judges said that the United States, under the leadership of Bush, forged documents to claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They further said the findings of the tribunal be made available to members of the Rome Statute and the names of Bush and Blair be entered into a war crimes register.
In our third story, following Bush's admission that he ordered the CIA to waterboard prisoners, the Conservative mayor of London, England, has warned our last president that if his tour were to make any stops in Europe, quote, he might never see Texas again.
So Tony Blair has an international arrest warrant. I can only hope we find him, arrest him and lock him up. And John Prescott is just a big fat bully that deserves what he can get.
Because you're the last Deputy Prime Minister, so have you ever bullied anyone?
Yeah, but I haven't been a Deputy Prime Minister for 18 months.
When my son was born profoundly deaf in Wales, I was devastated to learn that there was no school for the deaf in the whole of Wales. I was told I would have to find a school for the deaf in England and he would have to go residential. This wasn't an option for me, not at all. So I put together a unique business idea, a database that would allow people to swap houses between Wales, England, Scotland. Could even create multi-swaps, create three-way swaps or four-way swaps that could never be found otherwise. And it would also save government over £18 million every year. Until now, there was no other way of swapping your houses with other people. This was a unique idea. Due to my own situation, this business plan was wrote with total empathy for society, something John Prescott has never had. Today, local authorities all over the country are using this idea to fulfil many functions and obligations under their job in helping vulnerable families and individuals. Tony Blair allowed John Prescott to spend millions of pounds piloting my project, in England only, leaving me totally excluded from the very project I designed. My forecast savings for government in 2000 was way underestimated, and government are saving many millions of pounds every year using this plan. But the ironic thing is, this has also created a multi-million pound industry, an industry that I am not part of and my family are not part of. John Prescott didn't even offer me the price of the market research and the time and money we'd spent putting the plan together. All he could focus on was the savings for government and putting together a plan in his own name, a green paper in his own name. Prescott and the Labour government benefited from my business plan, took full credit for my business plan, and saved millions for the government from my business plan. They've even linked it to the direct website as suggested in my business plan. I was so concerned that John Prescott had stole my plan blatantly and committed fraud, I wrote to one of his colleagues that worked on the housing green paper with him. She wrote, the original proposals in the green paper did not envisage the inclusion of a mutual exchange. This is very suspicious, and this is evidence that the police haven't even looked at. Please also remember the 3 snippets I shown earlier, showing an identical plan to the plan that Prescott has put forward. It's the £18 million saving for government that distracted them, totally distracted government from the ownership of the document. And let's not forget Alistair Darling's letter where he says, my business plan seems to be an interesting and worthwhile idea.
HomeSwapper has helped over 700 landlords empower their tenants with more choice and flexibility when it comes to finding a swap. Our award-winning service is trusted by thousands of tenants, making HomeSwapper the nation's favourite. So, whether your tenants are looking for a local swap or to relocate across the country, HomeSwapper will work for them. And our fantastic multi-swap feature enables swaps between chains of tenants, delivering enhanced choice for householders and more opportunities for landlords. With richer data and great tools, HomeSwapper takes home hunting to the next level. HomeSwapper.
I strongly believe that the only way for transparency would be interviewing my witnesses, interviewing Prescott himself and doing a virtual reconstruction of his desk at the time and asking where is his market research for this project. The fact is, there was no market research. He used my plan in its entirety, the exact plan, and created an industry, whilst destroying my future and destroying my trust for authority.
This is Englefield Green in Surrey, home to engineer Mike Webb and his wife Claire. They have 2 children who currently share a bedroom. They want to move to a bigger house which is closer to the children's school, so they've become part of a 3-way swap. Claire will move into Lynn's 3-bedroomed house in Chertsey. Lynn will move into Emma's flat, also in Chertsey, and Emma and her family will move into Claire's in Englefield Green. All being well, the 3 families should be in their new homes in just 4 weeks. With tenants able to search online, a swap could mean moving anywhere in the UK.
They went from Northampton to Hayes in Middlesex, from Hayes in Middlesex to Greenford.
When a crime has obviously taken place and evidence has been presented, we need resolve, and I would suggest the present administration pay me what they would pay a reputable market research company. My business has been tendered out. It's too late, but it's not too late to give me justice. North Wales Police and the IPCC have failed to follow any leads of inquiry whatsoever, and the only questions after 6 months investigation was, did I copyright my plan, or did I give my plan to John Prescott free of charge? At the time John Prescott stole my business plan, it was the exact same time the Waterhouse inquiry, the North Wales Child Abuse inquiry, was going on. This was a very bad time for victims. Did John Prescott know this?
The police service will deal with you professionally and work with other agencies to ensure you receive any advice and support you need. Please be reassured by the fact that the Panadol Senior Investigating Officer, Ian, has met regularly with the Children's Commissioner, with victim support and with the NSPCC to ensure the investigation has remained victim focused for all.
It was Chief Constable Mark Polin's job to make sure none of his friends, John Prescott, Tony Blair or Alistair Darling, received a charge of fraud in public office. I believe it was Polin himself that ordered the investigating officers not to follow any leads of inquiry or interview Prescott himself. And when I reported Polin to Winston Roddick, the Police and Crime Commissioner, I wasn't even worthy of a reply. Chief Constable Polin has proved that North Wales Police have no mercy for the abuse victims in North Wales. No mercy at all. Due to the authorities' defensive attitudes towards the victims, both at the time of the abuse and the following years, we sit at the top of this pyramid.
Make emphatic point. Crush opposition. Receive adulation.
Nice one, Tone. That showed them useless Tory.
I may get the grammar wrong, that's true, and I'll have to take the blame for that. That was my education, I'm responsible for it. When you
So what's the problem then?
Well, I don't see why they should be subjected to examination by the press, do you?
I do actually, yes, because it's if you're inviting them as a public...
I've just been listening to you, don't give me all
They've got everybody working until they're 75, and then they get a pension only if they're still alive. They're stealing all your energy to jeopardize your soul. Supplied your education and left you in a hole.